All right, so everything's been good so far. Just have a few more things I'd like to get to, a couple questions to ask. So let's get into the June 5th ECWA. First, how do you feel about Mr. Oolala being ECWA Champion? And if you can follow that up with how that relates to your Beat the Clock match with Sam Shields.
Wow, so that's a loaded question. As far as Mr. Oolala goes, and I'm gonna kind of break down the fourth wall here, and tell a story that really hasn't been told, only a couple people know of. And that is a couple years ago, I got the chance to wrestle Mr. Oolala, and you know, it was a big thing for me. Before the match, I went to a local store and I picked up a card. It was a thank you card. And I just, you know, wrote in the card, thank you for everything you've done in the business. Thank you for everything you've done for professional wrestling. And I gave it to him before the match, and I believe he still has it to this day. But it's just something that I normally wouldn't do, and most people normally don't do, but it meant so much because as a kid, living in Delaware, you know, an undersized kid living in Delaware, going to ECWA was my first taste of wrestling that wasn't on TV. In Wilmington, Delaware, I watched guys like Cheetah Master, Boogie Woogie Brown, and Mr. Oolala stood out among everybody in my eyes. He was just the absolute epitome of amazing character. And still to this day, you know, my father, anytime he goes to one of my shows, he asks if Mr. Oolala is going to be there. So that was an important thing for me. So seeing him become ECWA champion, or should I say reading about him becoming ECWA champion, made me feel really happy, but also made me feel really sad because, you know, he got to become ECWA champion at a Super 8 tournament that I wasn't booked on. And I feel like, you know, that's nobody's fault but my own. And that's what this year is about, and this coming out of this pandemic is all about, is getting back to the very top of the ECWA. So you ask about this Saturday, June 5th, against Sam Shields, Beat the Clock Challenge. We talked about how since the end of the pandemic, this has kind of almost been like a movie for me. You know, you talk about the street fight from last month, and how the night of unusual matches, I'm booked in a street fight against Travis Lee, when I've been fighting on the front line throughout this whole entire pandemic. It couldn't have been more story-like for me, and overcoming that street fight with Travis Lee, and now a Beat the Clock Challenge. You look at Beat the Clock, what it means to me. The clock is ticking, and I know this, and everybody knows this as a performer, as an athlete. The time is always ticking on your career, and it's ticking on mine in the ECWA, and getting that one last run at the ECWA Heavyweight Champion. That clock is ticking, and I have to beat that clock. And I've got Sam Shields. Sam Shields is a former champion like myself. Sam Shields is in amazing shape. He's an absolute beast in the ring. It's not going to be easy to beat him at all. Nonetheless, having to beat him quick is going to be yet another fight that I have to overcome. And in order to face Mr. Oolala, a mentor of mine, a friend of mine, a father figure like of mine, I'm going to have to beat the clock. And you know, we've talked about the name, the Heart Killer. Why use the Heart Killer name? Because it's killing the hearts of everybody that's doubt me. It kills the hearts of everybody that has their heart set on beating me in the ring. So to beat the clock, no, I've got to absolutely kill that clock. And when I kill that clock, the sad thing for me, and the sad thing about Mr. Oolala being the ECWA Heavyweight Champion, is I'm going to have to kill the clock to kill his dream. Wow. And that's sad. So June 5th is everything to me. June 5th means the world to me, and facing Mr. Oolala will mean even more. I think we're done.